So it is October 18, 2023. It is 3:07 p.m. and I will call this meeting to order. Melissa did state that we have a quorum, so we can get on with our business. We have the agenda was provided through email. Does anyone have any items that they would like to add or change to the agenda as published? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as written?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Dayton. Good to see you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I guess I should have asked anyone opposed. That's easier to count. All right, we've got the agenda approved. Thank you very much. Next item is we have only item on the consent items is approval of the minutes from the September 2023 meeting. Did anyone see any changes or additions that needed to be made to the minutes?
I did not, and I would make a motion to approve the minutes as is.
All right, thank you, Dayton. I'll second that motion.
I'll
Or Paula, I'll let you second it since I'm running the meeting right now.
That's all right. Thank you.
All right, any opposed? I think that's easier. All right, we've got consent items approved. Dayton, just wave at me when you're ready to take over the meeting.
Yeah, I think you're doing a fine job, Amy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Ain't my first rodeo.
Yeah, I'm happy to take the reins from here if you don't mind. And I want to sincerely apologize to everyone for being late here today. Things are fast and furious, particularly today on this Wednesday for me. But thank you, Amy, for stepping in so graciously, as you have had to do a few times now. So thank you.
Not a problem. That's my job. Thank you.
All right. So I believe we're at item 4 with public comments and presentations, and I see no one in the seats out here, and online I'm not seeing any, or may see someone.
So, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to kind of coordinate. So if anyone
Thank you,
is
Jared.
in the meeting who would like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand function to let us know that you would like to make that public comment. While we are allowing people to find that raise hand function, I'll just let you know that we did not receive any advanced requests for public comment or any submitted public comment. As I have gone through and stalled a little bit for time, I do not see any hands raised among those who are attending virtually, so I think we can proceed.
Fantastic. So proceed we will. We'll go on to 5 in action items, and I'm going to hand it over to Paula with the membership committee and the recommendation of Connie Ryan for membership.
Thank you, Dayton. Yes, we are excited to have received information and interest from Connie Ryan. And I can't tell if I'm on my phone. So is she on the call?
So Paula, this is Melissa, and
Okay.
she did let me know that she's excited to be a member. She had a doctor's appointment during the same time, so she'll
Okay.
see us next month.
Okay, perfect. So Connie comes to us with years of experience as a case manager for families, helping them navigate long-term care options and help in the home. And I'm drawing a blank on on her company's name. Can someone help me with that?
Journey Care
Journey Care
Coordinating.
Journey Care Coordinating. She has had I guess weekly, maybe a monthly senior variety show with a gal named Sandy Goliath, and they do kind of a little variety show that can be played or viewed at senior communities with music and information and that type of thing. She's very excited enthusiastic about working with seniors, and I think she'll bring a lot to the group. She is with child, so she may be in person or not on as we move through this. But yeah, I'm excited to have her aboard. Does anyone have any questions or yes, Amy?
I'll just say that I read her credentials, and I believe her perspective and experience in working with seniors will be valuable to us. And I'd like to move that we accept Connie Ryan as a member of the Commission on Aging at Pikes Peak Area Council of Government.
Can I ask for a bit of conversation before we vote?
Sure.
So when I'm looking at the roster for the commission, where will Connie serve?
Good question, Erin. Because we're still needing to bring in people from the different areas. And Connie, honestly, don't know what area of Colorado Springs she lives. I'd have to find that out unless you have a mailing address for her, Melissa.
So she did indicate to me on her application, so I might run to my office and look it up. And I thought I had put it in here somewhere, although Jared's standing at the podium. She had indicated what part of El Paso County she was hoping to be kind of representing. But I see Jared at the podium, so I'm going to let him say something if he has it. Otherwise, I'm going to go to my office and pull up her application.
So I'll just say, so that I pulled up the roster, the ones that are designated from the entities are those that are appointed by the entities themselves.
Okay.
And so since this was not appointed by the El Paso County Commission, this would fall under the Citizens at Large, where Kathy Sorella Smith is as well.
Okay. Yeah.
So not totally kind of true though, Jared, because no one else was appointed by the city of Colorado Springs who's listed under Colorado Springs.
So then we probably need to move all those to at-larges.
So it's kind of like the way that this entity has handled that is just recognizing that they were there. And if they were appointed, we put an asterisk by their name. And that's the same way it's handled at the Regional Advisory Council as well, because we get so few appointed positions. And so we just have people that are representing areas, kind of having an outlook for that particular part of the region. But the only time that we know if somebody's been appointed is if there is a asterisk by it and then it's noted on the bottom of the roster.
Okay.
And we've been doing that for a long time. So if you want us to change that, we can work on changing it. But then it'll be kind of unfortunate because everyone will be a citizen at large and we won't have anybody. I mean, I guess we can put them all under citizen at large and then put Colorado Springs next to it, but there won't be any room on our roster to even list all the jurisdictions, so I don't know. We can table that and talk about it, but we've been doing that for ever since I've been here 5 years now. So
let's you and I connect separately because we've got two different systems in play here between aging and the other committees.
Okay.
Mhm.
So
And if we want to move towards appointment, let me know and I can look at what we would need to do to have that appointment come from the city. I don't think that it would be difficult to get an appointment conversation with the city. So
none of us have been appointed by the city. I think, right, Jared? I mean, or Melissa, we all just.
That's correct, Paula.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
we're all operating under the same assumption that Melissa has summarized.
Okay, awesome.
how about you, Steve? Were you appointed? No, okay. I'm looking at
No.
Steve over in Teller County. So
Most people have just been begged and groveled at to join this. Sorry.
recruited. He was recruited.
There you go. Heavily grovelly recruited.
I'm excited that Connie would like to be a part of the commission, and I know that she would do a great job. But I just want to know where she will serve, and I am hesitant, kind of neutral to any person who would be good on the board to just have the board be people in Colorado Springs. So,
And I think that's valid, Aaron.
Mhm.
I think the more conversations Paula and I have had in terms of like those internal measures of let's be super intentional about recruitment in these areas that are vacated. And I think we've thrown out the more or less arbitrary number of three,
Mhm.
three of those vacant spots across those jurisdictions to be filled before end of the year or end of Q1 next year. And in terms of Connie's application before us, and referencing the matrix that we've looked at, not only is does the region need to be taken into account, but also areas of expertise. And looking at her resume, it seems as though she has some significant experience within the caregivers world and experience, just kind of bringing that perspective to the forefront, maybe to complement that of Steve and Paula's work, and others on the committee. And then in addition to that, I know she also has some marketing experience with her resume as well, which as we look to do some more things awareness wise in this upcoming year, I think could be a great value to this group.
And her area representing is Western El Paso County. So she's kind of saying, I'd like to be focused on kind of the probably Mountain Shadows, Broadmoor area, Manitou Springs, Western El Paso County.
does she live in Manitou Springs?
That I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I didn't pay close enough attention to her address, if it's even on her. I don't know that we have an address on the application.
Do we think that it would be appropriate if she does not live in Manitou Springs to ask her to be our representative for Manitou Springs?
Since she's
I
put
think-
Western El Paso County, it's probably more Western El Paso County, so maybe I have misspoken by saying Manitou.
Oh, okay.
So, on the application, it actually has the areas broken out like that,
Okay.
with the
Oh, there it
different,
is, yeah.
yep. And so she circled Western El Paso County.
Okay.
So
What do we
She said-
think? Because
Well,
I
it-
would, go ahead,
Mhm.
Paula, sorry.
I was just gonna say, that would have been my jurisdiction had I had to filled out an application that listed those, because I'm definitely on the southwest side. I have no problem going into Manitou and representing that area. But the same areas that Melissa listed for Aaron are the same ones that is the area that I'm also in,
Mhm.
being in Cheyenne Canyon, West Side, just south of the Broadmoor.
Eh, Yeah, I agree, Paula. And what this conversation is kind of sparking for me as we solidify our strategic plan is how we can delegate amongst our group if we don't have like a formal appointed person by those jurisdictions, by those civic leaders in those areas. We can among ourselves say like who wants to be a little bit more focused in these areas, and we could have that conversation among ourselves and be a little bit more intentional around that so we are geographically representative, because if we're all in an echo chamber in Colorado Springs, we're not representative.
Mhm.
Right.
So I mean, we're close enough. I say that very loosely, but we're close enough of saying, I live on the north side or the south side of Colorado Springs. Therefore, I can make an effort to make connections in this area that we're needing to fill, in a way that kind of aligns or hears some of the things that align with our strategic plan next year. So if I could get that on our radar collectively as a commission, especially amongst the membership group, of just acknowledging we have these gaps, but we still need to be intentional, think creatively as a commission to be representative. We're going to have to delegate among ourselves of how do we at least hear from those areas and who wants to be that person or persons to do that.
I agree.
So are you saying then, Dayton, that it would be better to have Connie just under the city of Colorado Springs, and then we talk about the other parts of the community. Okay. Okay.
Her resume says Greater Colorado Springs area. So
Okay.
I just looked at the application, and the application actually has areas called out that are similar to the jurisdictions, and she circled Western El Paso County on the application itself. So, and that's what's on the memo is Western El Paso County. So I'm, I guess we need to formally recognize what Western El Paso County would mean versus City of Colorado
Mhm.
Springs.
Mhm.
So, and then Jared, can you scroll to the roster? Because I don't think there's an area of Western El Paso County on the roster,
Mm-mm.
which is interesting. There's just El Paso County. So how it got on the application, which the application is a generic application for our committees.
Mhm.
And so how that is on the application, I don't know. But so I would have seen her as like an El Paso County applicant
Mhm.
versus City of Colorado Springs applicant. But then there's no Western El Paso County. It's just El Paso County.
And I would be interested to know if Connie would be interested in being the El Paso County representative, because I don't know her, I don't know the area that she serves with her business, and I don't know her relationship to the Board of County Commissioners. But I mean, if she would be interested in that, I would love to ask her if she would be interested in representing us in connection with the county. And is that something we have to decide before we vote today? No.
Paula, I don't know if you have an opinion on this, but I don't think so. I think we could make a motion, vote her in today, of course, with agreement amongst our group. And then we can kind of figure out those nuances, because it sounds like even among staff here, we need to all get on the same page of who falls where in these categories. And I wouldn't let that kind of prevent us from moving forward today.
I agree.
So with that said, I would make a motion to vote Connie Ryan on to the Pikes Peak Commission on Aging.
And I will second that.
Anyone opposed to moving forward with Connie on our commission? So moved. We will welcome Connie next meeting, and I hope onboarding is kind of still in the works. It seems we built a good cohort, at least, that can all relate to kind of the onboarding situation and orientation around what we're doing on the commission.
Very
Great
good.
stuff.
Good.
Paula, I'll just let you continue with the floor here at 6A on the membership committee updates.
Well, we just got a new member, which is exciting. And we have some other discussions out. Melissa helped me with, I'm traveling, so I don't have my whole folder with me. We have some other discussions out with a few other people in the area. I was able to speak to Woodland Parks Rotary a few weeks ago, probably about a month ago now, and the gentleman Ted Borden, I don't know if many of you know him from Aspen Mine Center in Cripple Creek, thought he had a person that he could designate to be that representative for that part of Teller County. So I need to follow up with him, but the presentation was well received. They're a very small group and older group, but Ted was excited for the opportunity to have some representation coming down from the Cripple Creek Victor area. Other than that, I'm still trying to get dates set to speak to other service organizations in Monument and in Fountain, and east. We need to somehow go east with our recruitment. So yes, that's where I'm at. That's where it's at. Melissa, did you have anything to add?
So speaking of East, there is a woman who is out in the Calhoun Housing Authority who was interested in membership, either between the RAC or the Commission on Aging. And she just reached back out to me at the beginning of the week to tell me that she was ready to talk more about it. I was out there about a month ago, and then she had some things that she was doing with her mother, and she just reached back out to me again this week saying she was ready to have more conversations. So
Okay.
we'll be setting those up in the near future. And there is one other person who was doing an application. Oh my gosh. Annie Hewitt is the other person. Again, she would be a Colorado Springs rep, but she works for the hospice industry right now. So, and again, the gal out in Calhoun, she would be over 60, but Annie is not. So, no, not Annie. There's the other gal who used to work for Silver Key that reached out to us. Erica, thank you. Erica. Yep, Erica Carter.
Okay.
Sorry. Erica is working for a hospice, and I'm not sure which one. I can't remember, but
Yeah, she is.
Solaris.
Solaris. Yeah, she's in Teller County. Yeah, so we could get, maybe she would be our Woodland Park representative.
And
Nice,
while
okay.
and we have Steve. We also have Steve Frick, who is present. I believe I saw
Mm-hmm,
him. Yeah.
mm-hmm,
Yep.
mm-hmm. Yeah, yes, please.
Sign him up.
I quickly want to acknowledge this beautiful flyer we have in front of us that says seeking commissioners. Not sure, Jared, if you're able to pull it up digitally. And while Jared pulls that, I think it looks fantastic. This is, I know we were making the former flyer work, but this is just such a great, succinct document for folks to have. And Melissa, I appreciate you being the main point of contact to field those inquiries for those who are interested in becoming a commissioner. Last meeting, I believe we had all agreed upon, or a big call to action for us was to hand out some flyers in opportunities that made sense. So still going to hold us as a group accountable to that same effort. Just we have a more beautiful document in our hand to hand out, which is exciting.
And
Awesome.
Saturday is the expo that's happening. If anyone's going, AAA is going, so I'll be there. Kent will be there, a few other people. So we'll have this flyer to hand out instead of my old one.
Which expo is this? Is this the Gazette?
I think so.
Okay,
Yep. It's at the World Arena, Doubletree. And I
okay.
think it's,
Oh, wait, the Doubletree or the World Arena?
well, the World Arena. The World
Okay.
Arena. Well, it's at the hotel by the Doubletree.
Oh, okay.
It's at, sorry.
It's at the World Arena by the Doubletree.
Thank you.
Yes, okay.
Well, it's at the hotel. Yeah, it's at the hotel. So sorry. I think I just need to head out right now. Go get some green tea or something.
It's at the Doubletree near the World Arena. Did she leave? Are you guys there still?
Yep, we're
Okay.
looking at the second paragraph under mission and vision, where there could
Okay.
be a revision instead of, boy, I'm rhyming. Instead of in vision, it could be vision.
I like that revision.
Yeah, and I just I'm not sure how many folks on the line, or even those who will watch a recording of this, but I feel like being on the commission is such a valuable place to be to make a difference. And as we all have conversations with others, I feel like we're in a really exciting time to kind of mold what we're doing and really help launch strongly into 24. So as we go into these conversations, yeah, just really selling it in terms of this is, if you want to make a difference for the aging community across these 3 counties, this is the spot to do it. Nothing like working with a semi-blank canvas. All right, Paula, any other updates on the membership committee front?
I don't have any other updates.
Great. Any conversation, questions, concerns on the membership committee front from others?
This is Amy. I'll just say I continue to scour Park County, and it is a challenge, but I will not stop discussing and trying to find someone to step up through either Alma or Fair Play.
Thank you, Amy. We really appreciate it.
As kind of a final note on membership, Danielle McCarthy, who was on the commission, she did get a job up in Denver and left our commission a couple of months ago, but she did send an email the other day mentioning that she is having her husband's internment at Fort Logan on November 10th. And so I have a card that for the people who are here in the room, we can sign our names on there, and then I'll put the other members' names on there just as, folks that are part of the commission. But I thought we could send her a little card and let her know that we're thinking about her.
That's really nice. Thanks. And if you wait, I can swing by when I get back and sign it if you want.
That'll be great. I will.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would appreciate you adding me to that too, Melissa. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Paula.
Mhm.
We'll go ahead and move over to 6B and Policy Committee. And Kathy, if you're on the line, if you wouldn't mind kicking us off from the CCA standpoint. And also, Amy, I know you've also been coloring in a lot of things coming from that group as well. So Kathy, if you don't mind kicking us off, and then Amy, please add if you can.
I do not mind at all, but unfortunately I missed last month because of my husband's stroke and heart surgery. But so I missed it, unfortunately, because I was really anxious to go. So sorry, hopefully.
No apologies necessary, Kathy. I hope your husband's doing well, and I hope you're doing okay as well. Amy, any insight from the CCA standpoint?
Yes, actually, the meeting we had on September 24, we are setting up the committees to focus on legislation for 2024. And I can drill down a little bit in what the focus is going to be. Community-based service committee is the one I'm going to be serving on, and the subtopics for that are going to be AAA funding. We're going to really work really hard to try to get consistent, known, tag for inflation funding for AAAs, adult protection and fraud, caregiving, housing referral services, in-home care, non-medical supportive services, including food and transportation, and older adults released from prison, including healthcare and housing. And then the other committees are going to be healthcare committee, which is going to focus on chronic pain, healthcare access, healthcare affordability, hearing, dental, vision services, and mental and behavioral health. And then housing committee is going to focus on accessibility, affordability, availability, home modification, home share, a structure for safe home sharing, which is a real interesting topic. homelessness, homeowner associations, lawn care, including congregate care facilities, assisted living, insurance cost and ombudsman, and property taxes. And the last one is workforce committee, which is age discrimination, apprenticeships, digital equity, direct care, employment, and data reports on older adults. And then there's going to be some just other topics like environment, public health, pollution, climate, water, and internet access and computer skills. But that's a pretty ambitious list on what we're going to be focusing on for 2024. And I can share this document with Melissa if you would like, and she can send it out because it's all public knowledge and it shows the list of who is going to be interested in participating on what committee.
Thanks, Amy. I'll send it.
Thank you, Amy. I know I had the opportunity to sit in on the COA meeting. Melissa and Aaron were there as well as they, the Colorado Commission on Aging visited here in Colorado Springs, and just a great meeting and a great insight into what they're honing in on as a group. And that priority list, I'm happy you shared it, Amy, because that was one of the documents that really stuck out to me as a tangible of what they plan on focusing on in 24. And one that I have a little bit of a personal affinity for, which will come as no surprise, is the competitive grant for age-friendly communities. I feel like it is something that really needs to be paid attention to, given the feedback we've gotten from the 19 or 20 other age-friendly communities throughout the state who have essentially not enough resources to do some of the age-friendly work that they're setting out to do in their communities. So just was really encouraged that that is on the radar screen of this group, in addition to addressing some of the workforce challenges that we've seen in past years.
Yeah, and I might have confused. This was the Colorado Center for Aging, which used to be called the Senior Lobby. This is what their focus is. The Colorado Commission on Aging, I do not participate on that one because lack of bandwidth. but they're going to focus, and so I can take any comments that we have to them for legislative work that needs to be done. So I would say bring your comments to me and I will forward them on. And if there's legislation that can be done, we've got a couple really good representatives who do attend our meetings from time to time who might carry some legislation if we think there's a need.
I love it, Amy. And in that list of things, I don't know if it's a good exercise or not, but it's one that comes to mind of aligning those priorities with like what we're talking about around this table. Because I think the more voices or more firepower we have in multiple groups, I think the better. So if there is, digital equity on that, and we have digital equity in our strategic plan that falls under social connectedness or one of our goals, then how do we kind of align those dots and really leverage some of the existing efforts legislatively with what we're trying to do here across the 3 counties?
I agree.
Yeah, would you mind pulling that list back up for us, Jared? And sorry, this is a document that I continually are referring to, but I see some very clearly in there that align with some of our goals, right? So us kind of having the awareness and also kind of seeing even if it's as simple as putting an asterisk next to our goal or one of the objectives within our goals that aligns with the Colorado Commission on Aging's priorities, we have that awareness and are able to kind of keep it on our radars as they progress or don't progress on their end. At very minimum, we can let them know that this is a part of our strategy. And I think that adds maybe a little bit of fuel to their fire too. Kathy, I'm not sure if you have any take on that, on us interfacing with the state commission in that way.
No, I think it's great. And when I'm in the meetings, I do bring up your current emphasis. So I was on the legislative committee, the workforce committee, and the age-friendly, affordable, accessible housing committee. So, but I wasn't at the last meeting, which is sad.
Dayton, this is Jody, if I
Yeah.
may
Yeah, go for it, Jody.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's good being able to listen in. Technology is great. I'm on my way to our regular quarterly Colorado Association of AAA's directors meeting. So sorry I can't be with you in person. But really, to your point about coordinating, it would be really good to have those conversations because and Kathy has probably heard these conversations as well. The Colorado Commission on Aging, because they are ultimately working under the Colorado Department of Human Services, specifically within the senior realm, can only put forth three ballots to support, 3 ballot items to support. And so coordinating and really maximizing what those topics would be really crucial. So I think having Kathy, at the table with you all as members of our local Commission on Aging is really imperative, because then we're not duplicating efforts and ultimately losing out on, we're not duplicating and losing out on the opportunity to defend a particular bill going before the state. So I think those ongoing conversations are crucial to make sure we're either efforts or not losing out on a potential opportunity and not tripping over ourselves, as it were. And so the ongoing conversations to find out what CDHS would ultimately be putting forth as part of their priorities, but also working with the Colorado Commission on Aging to find out what they're able to put forth would be really a great opportunity for coordination. And ultimately, to Amy's point, the two organizations are separate from each other, and there are certain things that the Colorado Commission on Aging is not allowed to do because ultimately they fall within the state CDHS structure. However, and I keep calling them senior lobby, even though they haven't been that for several years. They are able to do things as an independent organization that the state department cannot. And so more communication and that ongoing efforts to coordinate that would be really important this season. Thanks so much.
Thank you for that, Jody. Yeah, let's be bridge builders. And I don't know, maybe Amy or the executive committee could talk a little bit more in the policy committee, how we could be more intentional about those alignments. Now that our strategy is becoming a little bit more crystallized, we could kind of start aligning some of those efforts across CCA, CCOA, and us, of what's going on and where those common threads are. and start kind of identifying where those opportunities to amplify the voice around the same issue are.
Yeah, thank you, Dayton. We did not have a meeting. The meetings are the second and fourth Monday of the month. We did not have one last week because it was Columbus Day, Indigenous Americans Day. So we will have one next week, and we will then start developing our strategy and talking about legislation that we know some representatives and senators are putting forth. I'll bring those lists to you, and we can then work on where if we want to, how we want to maybe support some of that effort. So thanks.
Absolutely. It sounds like the tactics might be kind of second step in that. So first, maybe aligning, identifying where we can align, and then the tactic to that after we do that is the how of like how do we begin to kind of coordinate and talk about the same thing and help each other out. Great. The PPACG Legislative Committee, Jared, I will give the floor to you, sir. Thank you. And thank you, Amy, and thank you, Kathy, as always.
All righty. Good afternoon, everyone. I just kind of wanted to call attention to some attachments we actually put into the meeting packet this week. The first one, which I have pulled up right now, is our legislative themes document that the board approved at its meeting last Wednesday. This is an annual document that the board puts together. And the idea is that this is something that we hand out to legislators to be able to give a higher level overview of what our priorities are for the upcoming session. If anyone saw last year's document, this is actually relatively similar compared to last year's. The only things that I'll call attention to that changed from last year, under the maximize quality of life through local control on the right side, we clarified a little bit on the mandates piece. We also put in a little bit more specific language around affordable housing and specifically supporting reform to construction defect legislation to encourage new condominium builds. That language is very specific, and that last year in El Paso County, there were no permits issued for condominiums. And so that is something that there is actually I believe some movement happening on that. I know Mayor Mobilade mentioned that as part of his State of the City address last month. And so that's one area that we have clarified compared to last year's brochure. The other one I will also point out to is just cleaning up a little bit of language under the protect and enhance services for seniors in the region, specifically as related to affordable housing. And that relates to the second attachment that I included in there which was a resolution that the board passed last Wednesday in opposition to Proposition HH. There is a provision in Proposition HH, and I'm going to scroll down to it, that is essentially a portable homestead tax exemption, which PPACG has been fighting for years. And so it is something that we are very excited about, and we called attention to it in the resolution. However, the board members also felt that everything else in Proposition HH was not something that outweighed the support for this item. And so the resolution included language that said that we would like to see this as a standalone issue, as the overall resolution was in opposition to the proposition. Those are the two main things I wanted to mention. I'm also going to mention that this Friday at 3:30 is our fall state legislative roundtable. It'll be in this room. This is our fall event where we invite the legislators from both the House and Senate within our 3-county region to come and visit with us and our board to be able to go over priorities for the upcoming 2024 session. This is a little bit earlier. So last year we did ours after the election. This year there's no one running, it's an off-year election in terms of the legislators concerned. So we went ahead and did it a little bit earlier just because bills are starting to be drafted right now. As I think it was Jody mentioned that there are already some bills coming out of interim committees. On the aging side, there's already some bills coming out of the transportation committees. We're also following very closely the ozone air quality committee, the interim committee. So that's why it's a little bit earlier than usual, just because things are already happening. And January will be here before any of us want to admit to it. So I will just leave it there. I'm happy to answer any questions. But I just wanted to give you these two items since they both came out of legislative committee and the board did take action on them last Wednesday.
So in regards to the legislative committee roundtable meeting coming up on Friday, for people who have not attended that, it is a great opportunity to be sitting. We are in the audience. We are listening to the legislators talking about what their priorities are, what they're looking to do. They interact with each other quite a bit, throw ideas back and forth. And then at the end, when the meeting has broken up, that's an opportunity to approach any of those legislators on your own, introduce yourself, ask them questions. Oftentimes they stick around for quite a while. So it is a Friday afternoon, but my experience in the past has been they usually stick around and they're pretty easy to approach and talk to on a one-on-one basis. So just know that you won't be able to, ask questions during the event itself, but you can get up after, when everything's over and done, you can approach folks and talk to them. So just plan accordingly.
I have a few things. One, I'm super encouraged to see that seniors in the region were called out in this document in protecting and enhancing services. I think there's great alignment, must be the theme today. There's great alignment with our strategic plan, just even looking at the goals on this document that has been put together for us. Great alignment in those. And again, as we kind of think through tactics, we can think about how this aligns with our goals and how we could, prove to be an asset to some of the efforts that are going to be put in place legislatively, since this is focused and we are kind of we're building our credibility to be the go-to around aging issues. So that's one thing. The second thing around Prop HH and the proclamation is, to me, it sparks an opportunity in that, again, how do we increase our visibility among the PPACG board? I don't know if this group was aware that that proclamation was going to be done, or of course they obviously don't need our permission, but at the same time, just curious how we get more involved or in the loop at the very minimum when these things are voted in, established, or kind of put in motion going forward. I've thrown out the concept around, maybe we meet with Chair Thompson of the PPACG board to just have a conversation of how we could be seen as an asset to kind of further inform some of their conversations. So just throwing that out related to these types of circumstances. Jody. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think, yeah, some of this happens really fast. And a lot of kind of behind the scenes. And so, yeah, this, in fact, this particular one was, they called a special session, and it was not a, not something that was easily accessible for kind of a general public situation. But where you can be sure to be engaged is as we begin the legislative session. That is a meeting that I attend along with my fellow department leaders within the Area Agency on Aging to ensure that we're giving voice to any questions that come up during those those legislative meetings. And Jared could share more about the schedule when it gets started. But in those meetings, staff and any other participants, non-board members, basically, really we sit around the proverbial periphery of the meeting and provide input if there are questions around specific bills, how it might affect our constituents in a specific way. And so there is opportunity for leadership from the Commission on Aging to sit in on those and listen and be available for feedback. It is a board subcommittee, but because there's generally a quorum, they do run it somewhat more formally than just a regular board meeting. So, or excuse me, than just a subcommittee meeting. But there are opportunities to engage in those as they get started, and would encourage the leadership of the Commission on Aging to consider how you might want to engage in those. You can call in, you don't have to come to them in person, but it is a good opportunity to listen and be available to ask questions if prompted. Obviously, the formality of our board of directors is such that sometimes we do sit and we listen, and we might not have a direct input, but yeah, it is a good opportunity to be engaged and to be seen. So I would encourage the leadership to think about how they might engage in that way. And for those of you who know, I'm about to go through the Eisenhower Tunnel. I may get cut off here, so wanted to throw that out. Thanks a bunch, everyone, for this good discussion.
So I'll go ahead and just chime in a little bit from what Jody said. So during the session, the legislative committee will start off just meeting monthly, then it'll switch to every other week, then it'll switch to weekly, then it'll usually switch to twice a week as we get further and further into the session. I use Proposition H as an example. So that came out of Senate Bill 23303 that was introduced 1 week before the end of the session. Senate Bill 23-213, the land use bill, that was introduced in early April. So the sessions usually start fairly slow. And then by the end of the session, we are going through coffee like it's going out of business. So, but those are open meetings, as Jody said, that we notice them. Those are typically take place Monday mornings.
Got it. Thank you, Jared. Yeah, I just want to voice that we need to brainstorm ourselves or have a meeting at the very minimum with the other groups of how we could be of value. Because if we're not seen as valuable to other groups, then we need input on how we can be valuable to other groups. And the PPACG is kind of the first on the totem pole, in my mind at least, to say, what can we do to be of value to you as you're making these key decisions that have big consequence. And we get that things move fast and furious, but at the same time, we're here for information. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Last thing on my list was on this front is please, I would love to know who can make it to the legislative roundtable this Friday. I unfortunately cannot, as I will be out of town, but would love to know if any of us plan to be there, which I think would be amazing. Aaron, I see you raising your hand. Wonderful.
Mm-hmm. What would you like from us in attendance? And I ask everybody here, what would you like from us to take in and to bring out?
I would take this flyer. Not necessarily framing it or handing out in the sense of we're looking for our legislators to become a commissioner, but more so of, hey, this is our mission, vision, history, and our goals. I think that in itself says a lot. And it can get us on the map. I think that the main goal is to build name recognition of the Pikes Peak Commission on Aging amongst these folks and credibility of what we're doing here. So, and just being a familiar face to them. I would really like, I know we're all so strapped for time, but I hear Jody in that, you know, it would behoove us to get to a place of establishing a presence at these board meetings, even if it's just sitting on the peripheries, but just knowing that we're a familiar face, and the person who's coming up and shaking their hands after the meeting, I think that goes a long way. But sorry, long-winded answer to your question, Aaron. I would literally go in there with the goal of communicating our goals and talking about how we're forming our strategic plan and want it to align with some of the PPACG objectives within enhancing supports for seniors. All right. So if we are done with the policy front, we can move over to the PPACG board items. And Jared, I'll let you continue with the floor.
I'll check, see if Jody is back in civilization on the west side of Eisenhower first.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
We can.
Excellent. Well, Melissa, the primary items that I had, Melissa and Jared have really done a great job in providing those updates. We wanted to make sure everyone was aware of the event this Friday afternoon. As I mentioned, I'm on my way to my quarterly meeting, and so I will not be able to be there. This is an
Jody, are you still there? Guessing the big, yeah. Jody, we're giving you a hard time. The scenery must be killer up there. So I can at least pick up a little bit just on the board information. So Commissioner Mitchell and the rest of Park County was very gracious to let us host a meeting in their facility last Wednesday. I am so thankful that it wasn't yesterday because they had even more fun yesterday with the power outage. But it worked out well. I want to extend my thanks to Commissioner Smith as well as Commissioner Elsner, who's on our PPACG board, for their hospitality. So the board has actually met twice since the last time. They also met on Monday in a special workshop to look over transportation planning region boundaries as outlined in House Bill 231101. There was a discussion of where El Paso County might be shifting some things around because we are within 2 transportation planning boundary regions, and they were talking about consolidating us into one. Long story short, you guys are more than welcome to watch the 2-hour session if you are so inclined to do so. But the next board meeting will be back in Colorado Springs on November 8th. What is that? 1, 2, 3 weeks from today, I believe. But otherwise, outside of the great hospitality shown by Park County, there was not any specific action items relating to aging services. We did hear a great presentation and an update from the Park County Senior Coalition, as well as Mount Evans Hospice. I believe I got that name right if I'm going off the top of my head. So, but Betsy and Penny did a fantastic job in providing updates to our board. And unless Jody wants to chime in, but I think that was all I can remember from last Wednesday.
Thank you so much, Jared. Sounds good.
Great. Any other questions for Jared on the board front? Thank you, sir. Appreciate you,
Thank
Jared.
you. And I apologize. I think I kept saying Commissioner Smith. I got my Amy's confused. Commissioner Mitchell and Commissioner Elsner did a fantastic job. My apologies.
All right. We'll go ahead and move over to the chair report. Which I don't have too big of updates. I think the biggest on my radar right now is we have bumped our presentation to the PPACG board on our strategic plan to January. So rather, I know we were aiming for, I believe, November. We've pushed that out a couple of months because of where we're at in solidifying this plan and us just ensuring we have a quality product, don't want to be rushed. And whenever it is published and printed, it's something we could all be proud of and presenting in January. I also think in January that it's a really strong way going into the year of saying this is what we're set out to do and this is what we're setting out to tackle starting in 24 and for the next 4 years. So that's the chair report. Happy to answer any questions having to do with that decision or any other comments. Looks like Paula lost sound.
I have a question, Dayton. So when we're presenting our strategic plan to the PPACG board, will we be meeting them at their exec meeting that month, or will we be sending it to them?
Melissa and Jared could certainly help me out, but I am under the impression that we would send materials in advance to be included within their board packet. We
Okay.
would look to be an agenda item
Okay.
and we would reference that during our presentation.
Do we have the date of that then? Because I am already scheduling into January, very unfortunately, but I would
Yikes.
like to put that on my schedule.
That day will be January 10th.
This is Jody. I'm happy to interject there.
Thank you, Jody.
Yeah, so it's kind of soft right now because we do have end of the year stuff, and that's why we've asked for it to go into the next year. There are actually two different opportunities that we're discussing. It was previously planned to be a board item, or excuse me, an agenda item on the regular board meeting, which would limit us to 10 minutes and 5 slides. In talking with our executive director for PPACG, he has suggested that we use it as a workshop item, which would give us well more than that amount of time. It would be held after the board meeting, immediately following a board meeting, and would give you all much longer time to have discussion, have presentation, way more than 5 slides, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what we're tentatively planning for. And as soon as we can set up those dates, we will certainly engage you guys on that so you know how to plan.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Jody. Out of my own personal curiosity, because my goal would be to have as most PPACG board members as possible engaged. And given how busy they are, I hear those board meetings are 2 hours. So how likely would it be that a majority of them stick around for that workshop afterward? Because if we could fit it in 10 minutes or whatever for slides, I would rather be effective and efficient than long and have kind of a sparse turnout afterward.
Sure. No, that's a fair question. That's a fair question, and that's something let's plan to talk about that as you're wrapping up your the summaries, because right now end of the year is a lot of just all of the literally end of year process that PPACG has to go through with the board, including finances and planning and that kind of thing. We could certainly, if we could have a sit down, and if you felt you could do the report in the 10 minutes and 5 slides, then we will just continue to request that spot. So why don't you and I talk about that, and we'll get Melissa and Jared in that conversation as well.
Sounds great, Jody. Thank you. I appreciate just kind of having discussion around the two options, if they are options for us.
Sure.
Just, yeah.
Yeah, that's no problem. That post board meeting workshop has been something new that we've been doing to go through different programs and funding opportunities and updates that really need more focused time than the traditional just few minutes that we can get at a board meeting. So we can certainly talk about that and get something on the schedule.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you, Jody. I also want to ensure, just want to make sure if anyone else has any input or opinions on that comment, because that's kind of the place where I'm coming from. I feel like we need to be just strategic in that delivery and how we want to do it. So if anyone is not agreeing with what I'm saying, that's completely fine too.
If you like, we can put that on the next executive committee agenda to talk about the pros and cons and what they might look like. We're happy to do that.
I think that's a perfect idea. Amy, I see your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Jody. That was going to be my suggestion, because I can see both sides to the benefit. I know quite a few people who sit on the board, and I think they will be very interested to have a maybe more relaxed conversation about seniors and what our seniors need in the PPACG area. So I'll put my thinking cap on that, but let's talk about it in our next executive meeting.
Perfect. Thank you, Amy. All right, we'll go ahead and move over to strategic planning item, in which we'll review the goals and objectives we have established and also attempt to solidify some tactics within some of those objectives. I know that we were torn on one of them the last meeting we had, which I don't quite have in front of me, but okay. And Paula, the executive committee met, and we do have some revised versions of the previous that kind of takes some of the magic from each of those that we looked at previously and attempts to kind of put them all in one. So let's look at those, and we'll come up on a decision of which among these we feel good about for goal 4. So looking there on the highlighted areas of what we're determining of what objective do we want, and we'll look at those 4 choices, and I'll open the floor in case anyone feels strongly. Amy, I see your hand up. Still, I don't know if it's left from the last time or if you have a new comment now.
Nope, I left it up, but I'll read it and I'll have a comment in a minute.
Sounds like a plan.
For goal number 4, because communities are so different, and the diversity of our area is very different, maybe it should read something like number 4, supporting inherent, unique, I don't know, abilities, but unique, I can't even think of the right word. It went out of my head. Unique offerings or unique attributes of local community to broaden life experience. Because, for instance, Park County, we have pockets of population, and Guffey is different than Bailey. And Guffey, they have their own little tight knit community and do things that could help include seniors more in some of their community events that they do. And so maybe it's almost drilling down into more local pockets within each county and helping those local events make sure that there's a component for seniors to attract them to attend.
Thank you for that, Amy. I think it's definitely worth recognizing the individuality of each community and how they might kind of leverage that in order to build skills. I want to quickly give a little more context in that CASOA data, where that third column in terms of opportunities to build work skills was one that we were looking to kind of move the needle on. And it first started as at least in the executive conversation while we were coming up with these words of we don't directly need to say work skills, and we could recognize that people want to just build skills, and that can translate into work or connectedness or feeling valued as a senior in their community. So I just want to throw that contextual piece out there that the CASOA is gauging on those numbers there. And one that certainly needs attention is the opportunities to build work skills. And I loved the way that Paula in our conversation had kind of broadened that of, supporting inherent abilities to broaden life experiences, purposeful skill building. I think those are terms that kind of broaden that concept of work skills, but also acknowledging that there are lifelong learners in these communities, and how can we promote opportunities so that seniors can, or older adults can, build those skills that they'd like to.
Hi, this is Paula. Amy, I hear you about wanting to recognize the distinct uniqueness of each community. And I think that's really important because I think those seniors will feel recognized and feel noticed and feel, their worth and their uniqueness of their communities. So I like what you added. The words, though, it's hard to wordsmith like distinctive or uniqueness or yeah, but I like where you're going with that, because I think the more you can cater to those seniors to make them feel like they are seen and they are recognized and what they bring is of value and not just what they do, who they are, but that they are recognized. So
Yeah, thank you, Paula. And to just a little story to help give perspective. Our county fair, we worked really hard on it. We're one of the real, in this area, the rural agriculture 4-H focused county fair. Well, we started this year having senior day because we had the fair and seniors would participate if they had grandkids or something, but we wanted it to be more than that. And we wanted to honor them and really make something special. And so if a lot of areas within Teller Park in El Paso could just put that little touch on to make a senior feel welcome and make it pertinent. And, you know, we had people carpool seniors in for the day who lived around there that wanted to just come and have lunch and do things that it really did. It made their month.
So this is Melissa. I think that it's nice for the commission, and maybe I'll kind of try to keep note of things over the course of the next year that happen that maybe the commission didn't necessarily make it happen per se in terms of doing senior day at the Park County Fair, but just to be able to kind of capture on some documents, some highlighted unique things that have happened throughout our region that would align with some of our goals, and just kind of be able to keep track of those things. It's nice to hear that Park County did that, and to see how it fits with this particular goal.
And if it could be broadcasted, what I'm thinking is maybe the effort and some of those stories could help other municipalities and counties do the same thing, because it doesn't take much to just add that one extra little special part to help a senior feel like it was something that they would benefit from attending. So maybe a way to not give a nudge or a push, but just a little birdie tweeting in their ear in Manitou or Green Mountain Falls that, don't forget about the seniors. Thanks.
I have one more crack at the wordsmithing of this objective, based off of this conversation, and tell me if I'm way off, but I put create a sense of community and value by fostering purposeful skill building that leverages a community's unique resources and assets. Yeah, it's wordy.
No, but it's meaningful.
Create a sense of community and value by fostering purposeful skill building that leverages a community's unique resources and assets.
I don't want to co-opt the whole conversation, but I love it because that says exactly what I think would enrich life. You know, to help add some value added to life, but also have that unique characteristics, because that's why somebody lives there in the first place. So I think you did a pretty good job, Dayton.
I agree.
I like it. I think you put all the pieces together in one sentence.
And I did type it out before saying it, and I just put it in the chat. So maybe a good, an easy copy and paste.
maybe not use the word community twice. A sense of belonging.
Belonging it is. That sounds great.
So are you putting the belonging, create a sense of belonging and value?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so still leaving community,
Yep.
unique resources
Yep.
and assets at the end. Okay.
And I want to point out the belonging piece or creating a sense of community rather than as we see in these options in front of us in like saying social isolation. I feel like it addresses that, right? If you feel like you're belonging, if you feel like you belong or you have that sense of community, then in turn you're not socially isolated. So
Yeah, it's a more positive spin. I like it.
all right, I think we found our objective for goal 4. Yay. Well done, team. Well done. I think what time is it? 4:30. We can move into tactical ideas, which I don't have, admittedly, the best framing for to do this exercise. So, if we want to just start with goal 4, since this one's top of mind for us, we're already in the thick of it with this goal that we just came up with, or sorry, the objective in goal 4 that we just came up with. Let's talk tactics of how we could create that sense of belonging and value by fostering purposeful skill building.
So this is Melissa. I kind of look at it a couple of ways. One would, we want to be thinking about a particular group of older adults to focus on. And again, there can be multiple tactics. Two, would we want to be identifying, things that are already happening throughout our different regions and highlight and encourage more of those? Or 3, once we identify what is happening around the region, then we see where the gaps are, so kind of a tactic would be, 2 tactics would be identifying what is happening in the different regions and then what are the gaps? And then maybe do we want to focus on a particular group of older adults or just make it for everybody? Do you want to focus on people who are living in long-term care communities? Do you want to focus on a younger set of older adults? Do you want to focus on, older adults that are still living with families? That wouldn't make any sense, I guess, maybe because they're already in their community. I don't know. So I'll stop there.
I love the idea of an environmental scan.
Yeah.
No, I feel like that really across the board gives us some great insight of what are those unique community assets and resources to be leveraged. And in turn, not only does it give us an opportunity to collaborate or learn more from those resources, those organizations or entities that are doing that important work, but also the gaps piece. And I think that complements a little bit of some other goals of ours, in all honesty. But I think that would be a wonderful first tactic, is to do an environmental scan of getting an idea of unique community resources and assets related to skill building in the 3 counties. Now, say we do that, then what is our next step? Once we have that information. And I feel like that next step almost needs to be so yeah, we need to think about the measurables that come up like that go in tandem with these tactics, right? Like what are we measuring as we do some of these things? There will be some that are not like measurable, like it's not really worth measuring. But where are we looking to kind of identify those success measures of like, are we moving the needle? Because the next CASO is not for another 4 years. So we need to figure those interim measurables that will give us an indicator that we are moving the needle on these fronts.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have a pretty broad list of groups to focus on, because in Park County, we have no long-term care facilities. We have no senior housing specifically.
Is it possible that someone is taking notes that I can see up on my screen? I do so much better when I see things visually. Like, is anybody writing the words that we're saying as they're coming along? No? Okay. All right. I need to step it up then over here for myself. Because what we're saying now, Dayton, right, is that we're talking about this goal and what specifically are the tactics, the individual tactics that we're going to take to get to this goal. Okay. And then how will we know that those tactics have been achieved? Okay. All right.
Yes. Yes, and yes. And I'll just say really quickly with the goal, the goals are being achieved through the objectives. So that's kind of like the unfolding, right? So we have these goals, and then we have the objectives that are going to help us accomplish that goal, and then the tactics that help us accomplish the objective. So it's kind of, it rolls up.
Yeah, I would do by a flip chart. You mean like a board and like you stand up the paper like a mic? Yeah, I would do so good with that. I'm losing my train without the visual, my train of thought. That's my only train. So, okay.
Not to complicate it, Melissa, do you want the document camera? You'd have to sit over here, but we could see your notes. Okay.
Dayton, will you turn your microphone on? We can't hear you.
Yeah, Amy, I was telling them not to bust out some hardware over here to show her Melissa's notes. Yeah, so what I would like to propose among this group, so we're in a little bit of a better position to have this conversation, is to come back next month ready to knock out the tactics across the 4 objectives and goals. And we will share, as an executive committee, we will have the framework ready to go to better facilitate this conversation next meeting. So I'm recommending that we table this now that we have all of our goals and objectives set, and we come in next meeting with a little bit better of a positioning to have this conversation.
Agreed. Thanks.
And I'm going to have Jared, just as a reminder for everybody, to look at this document again, just briefly. So goal 1, is enhancing accessible and affordable healthcare. And the objective part, sorry, go back there. Then the objective is fostering partnerships with healthcare providers, blah, blah, blah. So just so you know, when we did this before, we had a lot of stuff, in here, and now it's just that simple, enhancing accessible and affordable healthcare. And there it is, fostering partnerships. The next one, Jared, goal 2 is creating age-friendly housing and transportation. Objective is advocating for age-friendly infrastructure and policies that support aging in place. And then goal 3, strengthening caregiver support and services. Objective, enhancing support systems and resources for caregivers. So these would be those objectives that we would be then kind of going step by step for tactics for each of those. And hopefully our brains will be more ready. So.
And I'm really happy we recapped those because they actually have data points kind of associated within those objectives to reference. They have like Z% in a bracket there for us, and we could think about tactics that could inform that number. So for what it's worth, I'm really happy we reviewed that. And hopefully we could all have this kind of top of mind next time we reconvene.
And just to throw something out for thought for next meeting, some of the measurables on goal 4 could be increased attendance to senior day at the library, or within a long-term care facility, maybe increased participation in something that brought people together within the facility to play bingo, or I don't know. I mean, those things could be measured because social engagement is, I guess, people congregating together, enjoying human connectedness.
Dane, are you familiar? Did you work with the HOPE scores on the CSAP? What do you think about HOPE scores for a measurement for this?
I think it tells part of the story. To me, there's a couple of things to potentially measure, and I think HOPE would certainly hit on the sense of belonging.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it translates directly into skill building.
Mm-hmm.
I could see it might. I could probably be talked into that.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't work with them, so I'm not quite sure. But yeah.
Yeah, and for those on the call who are unfamiliar with the HOPE scale, it is one of the domains within the Colorado Client Assessment Record, which is a behavioral health assessment tool. And it's a 5-point scale, 1 to 5, measure your hope, and hope in the sense of, do you feel hopeful for your future? And that is a really telling thing as far as like research and literature is concerned, in terms of folks's isolation, depression, and those types of ailments.
Aiden, are there age factors built into that? Because I'm sitting here thinking, I would have answered most of those HOPE questions differently 25 years ago than I would today, just because of the way life changes as you get older. One of the one-liners, maybe I saw this on TV, that I kind of like, somebody said, I've reached the point where life tends to take more than it gives. And I ponder that from time to time. So I wondered if there's age differentiation in any of those kinds of hope score questions. Just popped into my head.
It's a fantastic question, Steve. And the short answer, no. It's the same question for all populations.
To comment on that, being in long-term care, it's interesting to watch what happens when people start to find a new way of defining what hope means in their lives. And it takes a while to get there. And some people never get there, right? And so I think this is an important piece to consider on this social isolation, goal. And, I realize the focus was kind of thinking about work skills a little bit, but now that this has been brought up, there is that piece of, recognizing where people are at with what gives them hope in their life and, what can be generated and brought up to help them with that. I saw Kathy pop up there for a second, but I don't know if she has anything to share, but.
I was just thinking that's kind of reframing their mindset to see the positives more. That was all.
Yeah. So wonderful conversation. It is I think clinical questions are something we have to just be aware of as we introduce them, if that's like who's going to be asking that question. Because I don't see us asking that directly. And are we going to empower the organizations within these communities to ask that question? And how are we going to enforce or incentivize? And when you do bring that type of question up and you get someone who is, maybe at their wit's end or in need of some resources, or then that responsibility falls on the organization in which who asks that question to connect them with the appropriate resource to be responsive to that person. So those are kind of like the logistics that unfold in my mind of, if we do ask that question, these things kind of need to line up, versus, how many social engagement activities are happening in a community, how many skill building activities or events are happening within a community. Those are things that we might be able to foster, encourage, and also measure, that are kind of resulting in people engaging in like skill building or getting that sense of belonging. I am so glad we tabled the tactics to have a great conversation like this. So like I said, we'll go ahead and revisit next, and we'll go ahead and move over to discussion items. I see none on the agenda. And so I'm just going to go to announcements amongst us and just open the floor if anyone has any announcements that they'd like to share with the group.
El Paso County, Colorado, it has committed to an age-friendly county implementation through AARP's age-friendly AARP's network of age-friendly communities and cities. And on Halloween, on October 31st, it's a Tuesday morning, we will be presenting a declaration of an age-friendly county with the Board of County Commissioners. The event is going to be at their Board of County Commissioners meeting, which is in Fountain that Tuesday. So I'm still waiting for final details about the timing and the location, and then I'll be sending out an email about it. But if anyone can join us that day, it would be wonderful to have people there. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure what time. It'll probably be AM, but sometimes I go and I think it'll be AM and then it's like 1 PM. So trying to get an idea of the agenda and it's not out yet, but we
Yeah.
would love for you to join us.
Aaron and Mr. Chair, if I could interject. So that meeting will take place at Fountain City Hall.
Mhm.
And items like this typically take place in the morning. So
Okay.
that'd be in the 9 AM. Usually afternoons are land use issues.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it could change, but I do know it's gonna be at Fountain City Hall.
Okay. Thank you.
Very exciting, Aaron, and congratulations to El Paso County and Innovations for driving that work, championing that work. Any other announcements, discussion, questions, concerns, flags?
I also have a question because when I'm looking at filling, the gaps that we have in our roster, I know people who live in Florissant and Divide and, other cities in the counties or in, the Tri-County region that are not necessarily represented on this list. So if we were to invite someone who lives in one of these other cities, what does that look like? Should we encourage people to represent the county then, or would we consider having someone who lives in Florissant represent Cripple Creek? Are there any thoughts about that?
Do you mind if I jump in?
Yeah.
So the ones that are appointment are members of the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments.
Okay.
Some of those other ones like Florissant, my understanding is that they're census designated places, but they're not actually incorporated towns or cities.
Okay.
So which would be why they wouldn't have a seat at our Council of Governments.
If someone, because the people I know are usually healthcare workers in those rural areas, and they drive, this person who lives in Florissant drives to Cripple Creek or did before the nursing home there closed. So if they work in that community, do you think they would be an appropriate representative, or do we really want people who are residents of those communities?
So for appointments, so it's a little different between appointments and then who the commission selects amongst whoever they select. The member institutions, the member jurisdictions can appoint whoever they want. They don't have to be a citizen of that community.
Okay.
They could be a staff member. So I always like to use the example. So we also administer the Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority. They have a citizen advisory committee. Ed Dills represents the town of Rama on that one, but he represents the town of Calhoun on that one.
Mhm.
And on the PPACG Community Advisory Committee, he represents the town of Rama.
Okay.
The city of Fountain on one of the committees is represented by a staff member, but that staff member does not live within the city. So for sort of member appointments, those have to be made usually by the city council or county commissioners.
Okay.
So that's kind of the process, how that works. Yeah, but it's intentionally flexible, especially for our smaller jurisdictions, just because there only may be a couple people who have the bandwidth to do it.
Okay.
And each member jurisdiction is entitled to a spot on all of our committees.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Great question. Thanks, Aaron. All right, all. Well, if there are no other comments or discussion, we can go ahead and adjourn.